Marcus Stone wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed through the crowded streets of New Victory, the capital world of the Stellar Empire. The three suns beating down from above made the weather uncomfortably hot for most species, but for a human from Earth, it felt like a mild summer day. He needed to deliver cargo manifests to the spaceport office, but the unusual crowd blocking his path had caught his attention. "The Great Games are starting," someone shouted in the universal trade language. "High Commander Brightwing is accepting challengers." Marcus hadn't planned to watch the Empire's famous fighting games, but the mention of Brightwing made him pause. Everyone knew about the Empire's greatest fighter, the perfect product of their advanced bioengineering. The crowd swept Marcus along, and before he knew it, he found himself inside the massive Grand Imperial Arena. The arena was a marvel of engineering, with floating platforms that could change positions and heights during battles. Energy shields protected the audience from stray attacks, creating a soft blue glow around the combat area. The seats were filled with beings from 100 different worlds, but Marcus noticed that most of them were from low-gravity planets. Their thin frames and delicate builds made them look fragile to his Earth-trained eyes. He found an empty spot in the standing area, next to a group of maintenance workers. The arena's artificial gravity was set to New Victory's standard, about 0.6 of Earth's gravity. Marcus's gravity compensator was working overtime to keep him from bouncing with each step. Most humans used compensators on other worlds to feel more comfortable, but today something made him want to feel his natural weight. A deep horn sounded, and the crowd erupted in cheers as High Commander Brightwing entered the arena. The champion stood tall and proud, his body enhanced by the Empire's best technology. Silvery lines of biotech augmentation traced patterns across his light blue skin, and his muscles rippled with barely contained power. The floating cameras projected his image on massive screens around the arena. "Who dares to challenge the Empire's finest?" Brightwing's voice boomed through the arena speakers. "Who thinks they can stand against centuries of Imperial combat science?" A warrior from the mineral rings stepped forward first. They were known for their crystal-based biology and incredible strength. The fight lasted less than a minute. Brightwing moved like lightning, his enhanced reflexes making him almost invisible to the eye. The crystal warrior shattered under his precise strikes. The second challenger was a gravity manipulator from the outer worlds. They tried to crush Brightwing with localized gravity fields, but the champion's augmentations adapted instantly. The gravity warrior left the arena on a medical stretcher. The third fight made Marcus's jaw clench. A young fighter from one of the newly conquered worlds stepped up, probably trying to win honor for his people. Brightwing didn't just defeat him, he humiliated him, dragging out the fight to demonstrate the Empire's superiority. "Is this all the galaxy can offer?" Brightwing laughed, spreading his arms wide. "No one can match the power of Imperial engineering. We have perfected combat through science. Your primitive natural evolution is no match for our advancement." The maintenance workers next to Marcus muttered angrily. They were mostly species from harsh worlds, looked down upon by the Empire's elite. Marcus watched as Brightwing continued to boast, describing how Imperial science had overcome the limitations of natural biology. Something snapped inside Marcus. He thought about his childhood in the deep mines of Earth, where the crushing pressure and brutal gravity had shaped humanity for generations. He thought about his father's words, "We didn't need engineering to survive Earth. Earth engineered us." Before he could stop himself, Marcus reached for his gravity compensator's controls. The device beeped in warning as he began reducing its power. His body grew heavier, more solid, as Earth's natural gravity reasserted its hold on his muscles and bones. "I'll challenge you," Marcus called out, his voice cutting through the champion's boasting. The crowd turned to stare at him. Some gasped when they recognized his species, while others laughed. Brightwing's enhanced eyes focused on Marcus, scanning him with obvious amusement. "A Deathworlder. How primitive. Very well. Let's show everyone why natural evolution is inferior to Imperial science." Marcus took one step forward, then another, his earth-weight body leaving deep footprints in the arena's floor. The maintenance workers stopped laughing. They recognized the walk of someone used to real gravity, not the artificial kind. The arena officials rushed to stop Marcus before he could reach the fighting platform. 3 of them surrounded him, their ceremonial robes floating in the low gravity. The head official, marked by his gold trim, held up his hands. "This is highly irregular," the official said, looking uncomfortable. "No human has ever fought in the grand arena. The medical risks are my problem," Marcus cut in. He stood steady while the officials seemed to float slightly with each movement, their bodies too light for New Victory's gravity even with compensation. The challenge was open to all species. The crowd had gone from laughing to murmuring now. Most of them had never seen a human up close before. Stories about Earth were treated like scary bedtime tales. A nightmare world of crushing gravity, powerful storms, and endless natural disasters. To them, humans were barely civilized creatures who somehow survived on a planet that should have killed them. Brightwing stepped forward, his enhanced voice carrying across the arena. "Let him fight. Let everyone see what happens when a primitive creature challenges imperial perfection." His biotech implants pulsed with blue light as he spoke, drawing appreciative gasps from the crowd. The officials huddled together, speaking in quick, worried whispers. Marcus caught fragments of their conversation, something about diplomatic incidents and safety protocols. Finally, the head official turned back to him. "You must sign complete liability waivers," he said. "The Empire is not responsible for any permanent damage." Marcus nodded. While they brought him the documents, he looked around the arena. The maintenance workers who had stood near him were now placing bets with the local bookkeeper. He noticed they were betting on how long he would last, not if he would win. The shortest bet was 30 seconds. The medical team approached next. They carried scanning devices and tried to attach monitoring patches to his skin. The patches kept falling off. They weren't designed for the density of human muscle tissue. The lead doctor stared at her readings in confusion. "This can't be right," she muttered. "Your bone density, your muscle mass. These readings are impossible." Marcus shrugged. "That's normal for a human miner." He didn't tell her that he had worked in Earth's deeper mines, where the gravity was even stronger than the surface, where every movement was a battle against nature itself. The crowd's excitement grew as Marcus signed the last waiver. Many had never seen a human fight before. Some were already recording with their personal devices, probably hoping to capture a historic humiliation. A young official handed Marcus a tablet showing Brightwing's combat record. 1,000 fights, 1,000 victories. The last 300 hadn't lasted more than 2 minutes each. The official's hands shook slightly as he spoke. "You should know, High Commander Brightwing has been enhanced with the latest Imperial combat technology. His reaction speed is 4 times faster than natural. His strength is augmented by military-grade biotech. His skeleton has been reinforced with—" "Don't need to know," Marcus said, handing back the tablet. "Just point me to the fighting platform." As Marcus walked toward the platform, his footsteps heavy and sure, he heard the betting odds changing. The 30-second bets were being withdrawn. The maintenance workers were now placing small bets on 1 minute, maybe even 2. Brightwing watched him approach, the champion's enhanced eyes scanning and analyzing. The biotech lines across his body pulsed faster, combat systems activating. He looked almost eager. "I've never fought a Deathworlder before," Brightwing said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Your kind usually stays in their mines and cargo ships, where they belong. But today, everyone will see why the Empire's science is superior to your crude natural evolution." Marcus stepped onto the platform, feeling it adjust to his weight. He reached for his gravity compensator one last time. With a deep breath, he turned it off completely. The sudden weight felt like coming home. The preparation chamber was cold and quiet. Marcus sat on a reinforced bench, watching as arena medics buzzed around him with their scanners. Their machines kept giving error readings. They weren't designed to measure human biology. On the other side of the chamber, through a clear wall, he could see Brightwing's team fitting him with combat enhancements. "Your heart rate is too high," one medic said, frowning at her scanner. "And your blood pressure, are you sure you're healthy?" Marcus almost smiled. "That's normal for humans. Our hearts have to work harder because of Earth's gravity." He watched the medic make notes, probably documenting human physiology for the first time in arena history. His mind drifted back to his first day in Earth's deep mines, 10 years ago. His father had taken him down the shaft, past the regular mining levels, into the deep zones where the pressure made most equipment fail. "This is where we learn what we really are," his father had said. The gravity there was crushing, nearly 1.3 times Earth's surface gravity. Every movement was a battle. The memory was interrupted by a loud cheer from the arena above. The crowd was watching highlights of Brightwing's previous fights on the big screens. Marcus looked through the clear ceiling. The champion's image floated above the arena, showing him defeating opponent after opponent with his enhanced speed and strength. A young arena official approached Marcus, holding a datapad. "We have combat gear available," he said nervously. "Strength enhancers, reflex boosters, impact shields." "No." Marcus stood up, his weight making the reinforced floor creak. "Just need to warm up." The official stepped back, startled by Marcus's natural movement. Without his gravity compensator, every step showed the true weight of a human body evolved for Earth's pull. Marcus began stretching, his muscles adapted to pressures that would crush most species. Through the clear wall, he saw Brightwing's team activating his combat systems. Blue lines of biotech spread across the champion's skin like glowing veins. His muscles swelled as combat drugs flooded his system. His eyes turned silver as targeting computers came online. Marcus continued his warm-up routine, the same one he used before long shifts in the mines. Simple stretches, muscle activation exercises, getting his Earth-evolved body ready for work. Some of the medics had stopped their scans to watch him. They had never seen natural muscles move that way. 3 minutes to combat, announced a voice from above. The arena screens showed the betting odds. They had shifted slightly. Now some people were betting he might last 3 minutes instead of 1. Marcus walked to a clear spot in the chamber and started bouncing lightly, testing how his body responded to New Victory's gravity. Without his compensator, he felt strong, too strong. He would have to be careful not to jump too high or step too hard. "Look at this scan," he heard one medic whisper to another. "His bone density is higher than industrial steel. And these muscle fibers, they're packed tighter than any enhancement I've seen." "That's impossible," the other medic replied. "Natural evolution can't produce that kind of density." Marcus remembered his father's words again. "Earth doesn't care what's impossible. She made us strong because we had to be strong. No machine can match what a planet demands from its children." The chamber's upper door began to open, letting in the roar of the crowd. Marcus saw Brightwing already ascending to the arena on his platform, his enhanced body glowing with power, ready to prove Imperial technology superior to natural evolution. Marcus stepped onto his own platform. As it rose, he felt the artificial gravity fluctuate slightly, the arena systems adjusting to his true weight. He rolled his shoulders, feeling the familiar pull of Earth's gravity in his muscles. Time to show them what a Deathworlder could do. The fight began with a sound like thunder. Brightwing moved first, his enhanced body becoming a blur of motion. The crowd cheered as he crossed the arena faster than most eyes could follow. His first strike hit Marcus in the chest, a blow that had shattered 3 previous challengers. Marcus didn't shatter. He didn't even fall. The impact pushed him back half a step, his feet leaving deep marks in the arena floor. For a moment, everything went quiet. Brightwing stared at his fist, then at Marcus. The human's chest should have caved in. Instead, Marcus just rubbed the spot and nodded, as if testing the champion's strength. "Interesting," Marcus said. His voice was calm, like he was inspecting new mining equipment. "That's about as hard as a medium rock fall." Brightwing's biotech pulsed brighter. He launched into a series of strikes, each one precisely targeted at what should have been weak points. His enhanced combat systems calculated every blow to be lethal. The air crackled with the speed of his movement. Marcus weathered the attacks like a cliff facing the sea. Some hits he blocked, others he simply took. Each impact echoed through the arena. The medical monitors on the big screens were going crazy, showing pressure readings that should have turned bones to dust. "Why won't you break?" Brightwing's voice held something new: frustration. His next strike was aimed at Marcus's jaw, enhanced muscles pushing the blow to supersonic speed. Marcus turned his head with the punch, reducing its force. He had learned that in the mines, how to move with falling rocks instead of against them. "Good hit," he said. "Reminds me of the time a support beam snapped under pressure." The crowd was no longer cheering. They watched in silence as Brightwing unleashed combination after combination. The champion's movements were beautiful, each strike flowing into the next with machine precision. His combat systems adapted, trying new angles, different pressures, varying speeds. But Marcus kept standing. "Stand still," Brightwing shouted, his enhanced voice shaking the arena. He launched a kick that would have cut a normal opponent in half. Marcus caught the leg. The force pushed him back several meters, his feet carving trenches in the floor, but he held on. "In the deep mines," he said, still calm, "you learn to stand your ground. If you move too much, the ceiling might come down." Brightwing tried to pull his leg free. He couldn't. Marcus's grip, strengthened by years of working in crushing gravity, was like a steel clamp. The champion's biotech flared as he diverted more power to his muscles. Marcus let go just as Brightwing pulled back, sending the champion stumbling. It was the first time anyone had seen Brightwing lose his balance in combat. "Your enhancements are impressive," Marcus said, moving forward with the same steady pace he used in the mines. Each step left a deep print in the arena floor. "But they're designed for fighting. Earth designed us for survival." Brightwing backed away, his combat systems recalculating. None of his downloaded combat data could explain why this primitive creature wouldn't fall. The champion's biotech was starting to overheat from sustained maximum output. "What are you?" Brightwing demanded, his silver eyes scanning frantically for a weakness. "Just a miner," Marcus replied. He kept advancing, his movements efficient and careful, like someone used to conserving energy under crushing pressure. From the deep mines of Earth, where the gravity makes your strongest metals flow like water, and the pressure turns rock into powder. The champion's next attack was desperate, a flying knee strike powered by every combat enhancement in his arsenal, the kind of attack that had ended hundreds of fights. Marcus didn't try to dodge. He just braced himself, the way Earthers did when the mining tunnels started to shake. The impact made the arena's gravity generators flicker. The arena's medical screens told the story that everyone could see but nobody could believe. After 5 minutes of combat, Brightwing's enhanced body was showing signs of strain. His biotech implants were flashing warning colors, and steam rose from his overworked muscles. Marcus, on the other hand, was just getting started. "Impossible," one of the medical officers whispered, staring at the readings. "The human's vital signs are stable. He's not even breathing hard." Marcus had found his rhythm now. Each time his feet hit the arena floor, the impact felt more natural. His body was remembering Earth, adjusting to movement without the gravity compensator. He began to move faster, more confidently. "You're slowing down," Marcus said to Brightwing. The champion had retreated to the far side of the arena, his combat systems trying to cool down. "In the mines, we work 12-hour shifts. How long can your enhancements last?" Brightwing's answer was a lightning-fast rush attack. But this time, Marcus was ready. He stepped aside with surprising speed, letting the champion's momentum carry him past. The crowd gasped. Nobody had ever seen Brightwing miss before. "That's better," Marcus said, rotating the shoulders. "The gravity here is starting to feel right." He bounced on his toes, testing his weight. In Earth's gravity, such a move would have been wasteful. Here, it was almost easy. The champion's next attacks showed his growing desperation. His biotech flared dangerously as he pushed his enhancements beyond safe limits. The medical screen showed his core temperature rising to dangerous levels. "Your implants are overheating," Marcus warned. "Maybe you should." He was cut off by a savage combination of strikes. Brightwing's enhanced fists created sonic booms as they broke the sound barrier. The attack would have torn through battleship armor. Marcus blocked the first 2 hits, deflected the third, and caught the fourth. The impact made the arena's shields ripple, but Marcus's grip held firm. Years of handling power drills in high gravity had given him a grip strength that no enhancement could match. "Let go." Brightwing tried to pull free, his voice showing fear for the first time. His biotech was starting to malfunction, patches of his skin turning dark as emergency cooling systems activated. Marcus released him, but not before using the champion's own momentum to push him off balance. Brightwing stumbled, his perfect form finally breaking. The crowd was completely silent now, watching history unfold. "In the deep mines," Marcus said, moving forward steadily, "we learned to work with gravity, not against it. To move with the pressure, not fight it." His movements were becoming smoother, more natural. His body had fully adjusted to New Victory's gravity. The maintenance workers who had bet on him surviving 1 minute were now shouting encouragement. They recognized what was happening. They had seen it before, when new workers arrived on their harsh worlds. The moment when a body adapted to greater challenges made lesser ones seem easy. Brightwing's combat computers were failing. His enhanced vision flickered between normal and targeting mode as his systems struggled to handle the impossible data. None of his combat protocols could explain how this primitive creature was still standing, let alone getting stronger. What are you?" The champion gasped between attacks. His once perfect moves were becoming ragged, his enhanced muscles starting to lock up from overuse. Marcus didn't answer immediately. He was too busy testing his newfound mobility in the lighter gravity. Each step was becoming more confident, more powerful. His Earth-evolved muscles, freed from their usual burden, were showing their true strength. "Like I said," Marcus finally replied, settling into a solid stance that any miner would recognize. Feet planted, weight centered, ready for work. "I'm just someone who grew up in Earth's gravity. And I think it's time to show you what that means." The champion's biotech flashed red, a final warning before catastrophic failure. In the control room above the arena, alarms were blaring. The medical officers watched in horror as Brightwing's enhancement systems approached critical failure. The champion's body was literally burning through its power reserves, producing more heat than his cooling systems could handle. "We have to stop the fight," one officer said, reaching for the emergency shutdown button. "No." Brightwing's voice came through the comm system. "I will not lose to a primitive." His biotech implants pulsed an angry red as he overrode the safety protocols. Down in the arena, Marcus watched the champion carefully. He recognized the signs of someone pushing themselves too far. He'd seen it in new miners who didn't respect the deep Earth's power. "Your enhancements are failing," Marcus said. "In the mines, we stop working when the equipment starts to break. It's not worth the risk." Brightwing's response was a laugh that bordered on hysteria. "Risk? I am the Empire's greatest fighter. I have defeated 1,000 opponents." His voice echoed through the arena as his combat systems engaged their final reserve power. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Brightwing's body began to glow like a small sun. Every enhancement, every combat system, every piece of Imperial technology in his body activated at once. The arena's sensors couldn't even measure the power output anymore. "This is my ultimate combination," Brightwing announced, his enhanced voice shaking dust from the ceiling. "No one has ever survived it. No one can even see it properly." Marcus took a deep breath and settled into his stance. It was the same position he used when operating the heavy drills in the deep mines. Feet firmly planted, core engaged, ready to control massive force. "I see it," he said quietly. Brightwing moved. His speed was impossible. Even the arena's high-speed cameras could only capture blurs of light. He attacked from 5 different angles in less than a second, each strike carrying enough force to punch through starship hull plating. But Marcus had spent his life working in a place where a single wrong move meant death, where every muscle had to be ready to react to falling rocks and sudden pressure changes. His body knew how to read movement, how to feel shifts in the air, how to respond to threats faster than conscious thought. He saw the pattern in Brightwing's attack. It was beautiful, perfect, and completely predictable, like all machine-calculated moves were. In the mines, you learned that perfection was dangerous. Nature was never perfect, and anything that seemed perfect was usually about to fail. Marcus waited, tracking the champion's movement through pure instinct. Then, at exactly the right moment, he did something very simple. He threw a punch. It wasn't an enhanced punch. It wasn't calculated by combat computers or powered by biotech. It was just a basic straight punch, the kind that Earth miners had been throwing since they first dug into the ground. But it was a punch thrown by muscles evolved to work in crushing gravity. A punch delivered by bones dense enough to withstand pressures that would flatten steel. A punch backed by the full weight of a body that Earth itself had forged in her depths. The impact point was perfect, just where Marcus's father had taught him to aim when breaking particularly stubborn rocks. Brightwing's enhancement-boosted speed actually worked against him, adding his own momentum to the force of the blow. There was a sound like a thunderclap. The arena's gravity generators flickered again. Brightwing's biotech implants flashed brilliantly one last time. Then the champion of the Empire, the product of 1,000 years of combat science, the greatest fighter in known space, fell. He was unconscious before he hit the ground. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the medical alarms seemed shocked into quiet. Marcus stood there, arms still extended, looking almost surprised himself. Then, from the maintenance worker section, someone began to clap. The news spread across the Empire faster than light itself. On every world, in every space station, on every ship, the video was playing. The moment when a simple human miner knocked out the Empire's greatest champion with a single punch. The betting companies nearly went bankrupt paying out the few who had bet on Marcus. In the medical bay of the Grand Arena, doctors struggled to understand what had happened. Brightwing's enhanced body was mostly intact, but his consciousness refused to return. The impact had been so perfectly placed, so precisely delivered, that it had shut down his neural systems despite all his protections. Like hitting the off switch on a machine, Marcus explained to the investigation committee. He had been called to testify about the fight. In the mines, you learn where to hit rocks to make them break clean. Bodies aren't so different. The committee members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had expected to find evidence of cheating, of hidden technology, of something they could understand. Instead, their scans showed nothing but natural human biology, muscles and bones forged by Earth's merciless gravity. 3 days after the fight, Marcus returned to his cargo ship. He had refused all offers to become a professional fighter. "I'm a miner who hauls cargo," he told the reporters. "Fighting was never my job. I just didn't like the way he was talking about Earth." But things had changed. As Marcus walked through the spaceport, he noticed people looking at him differently. Not with fear or contempt, but with a new kind of respect. A group of Imperial soldiers even stepped aside to let him pass, something that had never happened before. His cargo ship had been serviced for free. A gesture of professional courtesy, the portmaster said. The loading robots had been adjusted to handle Earth normal weight limits. Someone had even painted a small Earth symbol on his ship's hull. A week later, the Empire made its first official visit to Earth. The Imperial delegation stepped out of their ships wearing heavy-duty gravity compensators, looking nervous. They were welcomed by human miners who walked easily under Earth's crushing weight. Perhaps, the lead delegate admitted, watching a team of miners casually move equipment that would crush most species, we have something to learn from natural evolution after all. In the deep mines, Marcus's father heard about his son's fight. He smiled and kept working, unsurprised. He had always known what Earth's children could do. The Empire changed too. Slowly at first, then faster. Research ships visited Earth to study its gravity, its pressure, its endless challenges. Imperial scientists began to realize that their technology, for all its advancement, still couldn't match what nature had accomplished over millions of years. New signs appeared in spaceports across Imperial space. Warning: Earth normal gravity zone ahead. Some young Imperial citizens even started training under higher gravity, trying to build natural strength like the humans had. 6 months after the fight, Marcus was unloading cargo on a distant world when a young alien approached him. The alien was wearing weighted clothes and gravity training gear. "Is it true?" the young one asked. "Did you really knock out Brightwing with just one punch?" Marcus paused in his work. "It wasn't about the punch," he said finally. "It was about respecting where we come from. Earth made us strong because we had to be strong. No machine can match what a planet demands from its children." The young alien nodded thoughtfully and walked away. Behind him, Marcus could see others training with weights, preparing their bodies for higher gravity. They had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the oldest force in the universe, simple gravity, could overcome the most advanced technology. As Marcus returned to his cargo, he felt Earth's pull in his muscles, even across the light years. He smiled, knowing that his home world's gift of strength would always be with him, and with all her children, no matter how far they traveled among the stars. In the end, it hadn't taken a war or a fleet of ships to change the Empire's view of humanity. All it had taken was one punch, thrown by someone who knew what it meant to be forged by Earth itself.